meditation. All right, so some of you had started to mention how your week has been, and or month or a couple of weeks. So, oh yeah, anyone else hear an echo?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Little, very little.
I don't know why that is. Let's see. Let's see if it's better if I'm not on this headphone.
It's clear, right? Yeah, it's clear.
Is there still an echo?
No.
And can you guys hear me pretty well?
We can turn off.
Yeah. No, sound is lower.
We can just turn up our own volumes,
We can turn off.
I think.
Can everybody mute? I think it's somebody's got feedback going on.
Okay.
Stop.
I can't mute again. I lose the, here we go.
Gotta
Okay.
love that.
Should we mute ourselves?
It's there, but it won't mute. I guess there's no energy in my fingers.
You're muted. I think you're muted now, Jean.
Am I? Okay,
Yeah, I
it
think
doesn't
so.
show.
Uh-huh.
Everybody should be muted now.
You have to unmute, bud.
Is the feedback better when everyone's muted? Okay, cool. Yeah. I don't like listening to myself. No. Okay, so last class we did telepathy. The first class we talked about clairsentience. And previous to that, we were working with some of the basic tools, kind of getting those set. And hopefully you've had the opportunity and experience of kind of incorporating that into daily meditation and day-to-day life, right? I had some emails with some questions, and I enjoyed that. I like to kind of see, what kind of questions people have. It's good feedback in terms of kind of seeing how the classes are going, and also to see where everyone is kind of at in using the tools. And a lot of this, you could say that probably 90% of what is happening has everything to do with awareness and recognition. So, as I've mentioned in previous classes, it's not that you don't have these abilities or that they're not turned on. Each of us has all of these abilities, and they're going 24/7. They're all working. Now there can be a difference in a couple things can be happening. One is that we might, for different people, they might distribute their energy into different abilities more than other abilities. So that's one thing. So someone might be very centered around their clairsentience or their clairvoyance or their knowingness or clairaudience or any of the abilities. The other piece is that it's about recognition, and recognition comes with consistent practice, right? Just like an athlete or a musician, a musician, you might be able to hear the difference between different notes, But until you have practice and you've learned more and more, you might not be able to say that's a, an F, or that's an A, or that's a C, or whatever. And I don't know anything about music, but it's just an analogy in that you start to discern or differentiate some of the subtleties of that which you're aware of on any level. Because a lot of these abilities, they're psychic abilities. Psychic means soul abilities. So they're subtle. They're more subtle than the physical components of seeing with your physical eyes, or hearing with your physical ears, or touching with your hands, right? These are subtle abilities. And so it's an inward seeing, or an inward hearing, or an inward knowing, okay? And so, we are programmed from birth to really identify and with our physical senses, and that's what's really real. But these are just as real, if not, you might even say more real than what we're picking up. They pierce through some of the illusions, or the optical illusions of the senses in some ways. Okay. So, and I apologize for the technical difficulties in last class, and I will admit it kind of threw off the whole timing of my presentation. I might have done that a little differently. So I apologize for that. Hopefully that can clear up in this class. Yeah, and one thing is, some of that was just kind of off. No need to get caught up in that. Some of what starts to happen. So a couple things. One is that as you start to run your energy, that you will start to distribute your energy a little bit differently, so that you might have been really tuned up in one ability, tuned down in another ability. It'll start to even out, and you might momentarily feel like, oh, I used to really rely on this ability, and it seems less, but this other ability is seeming more. And that'll regulate out as you continue. But part of it is this, the distribution of your energy and attention is kind of getting smoothed out, so that it can be distributed a little bit more evenly through your abilities, through your chakras, the different chakras. And then as that progresses, then you will have easy access to any one of the abilities that you want to use at any given time. And a lot of times, and we'll work with this today towards the end, a lot of times it's not just one ability that's engaged at any given time. It's actually that you might know, see, and feel all at once. Does that make sense? That, you say, if someone asked, what ability are you using? How are you perceiving that thing or that energy, or how are you communicating with that being or whatever? And you say, well, I don't know. I kind of see it. I kind of hear it. I kind of just know it. Especially when you're talking to your spirit guides or to out-of-body beings, that the communication is kind of holographic. It's kind of like an instant communication. In one of the Old Testament Bible verses, God says, actually, I bookmarked it because I thought it was so amazing. So it's from Numbers. And yeah, he says, and he said, "Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth." And so I really love that. It speaks to Moses mouth to mouth, whereas some of the other prophets, he speaks in vision or in dreams. But to Moses, he speaks mouth to mouth. What does that mean? Right? So, well, there's an intimacy to that. There's an immediacy to that. It's like that with Moses, there's no intermediary element between the communication. There's not an intermediary symbol or vision or dream. It's direct, immediate, that God speaks to Moses that way. And I think the same is true for all of us, that it's not that we aren't communicating with spirit or with our guides or angels. And I'm kind of lighting this up because we're going to be doing this today. And it's more of a how. Do we know the language of spirit? Do we know the language of our guides? Right? How do we familiarize ourselves with the language? So in talking about clear audience, clear hearing, if you approach it thinking that you're going to hear like you hear with your physical ears, you're looking in the wrong place. It's much more subtle than that. Kind of like when you're reading a book and you hear the characters' voices, and you hear the man's voice this way and the woman's voice that way, and the tone of the character's anger or upset or emotion, and you talk to a friend reading the same book and they kind of have a similar thing. They kind of are picking up on kind of what the author intended that voice to sound like. Sometimes clear audience is kind of like that. It's like kind of like subvocal hearing. Okay. And this will be different for each and every one of you in how you experience the presence of a guide or the presence of spirit and how spirit communicates with you. And we'll kind of touch upon that again in the second half here. But in receiving some of the questions, the email questions, what it made me start to realize is that there's something that I should bring more attention to. And that is this, that as we're kind of engaging these different psychic abilities, that just making the decision to bring your attention and awareness into these different arenas of your self system and deciding to have that ability more, that you better believe that all sorts of energy is going to be lit up. Okay? No sooner do you take a step than you're tested. Okay? And it's not that you're tested by some mythological being or something, but it's that all the limitations that had been present in that ability, kind of keeping it at the level that it was at, will loosen up. It's real simple, real plain and simple, that the limitations will start to loosen up around that ability. And the, maybe some invalidation, like you're wrong, or you're doing this wrong, or maybe some competition, like everybody's getting it except for you. Or what's another one that gets lit up? Doubt. And so it can be very easy to, as those energies start to loosen up and come out into your conscious awareness, to think that they're real. Because previously you were unconscious to them. So it's actually a positive step. It's a step forward, even though it feels like a step into hell. So as you kind of take a step in having whatever ability, or in having anything in life, that the limitations that were there loosen up. And whatever your version of those are, maybe it's it comes in the form of criticism or judgment or invalidation or doubt or competition, right? And I was on a Bible kick, I guess, but it reminds me of the no sooner did Jesus realize who and what he was in baptism, what happened? He was sent out into the desert, into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, right? He was tested immediately. Or the Buddha under the Bodhi tree, that as he is recognizing who and what he is, truly, fundamentally, who and what we all are fundamentally in being, that he was tested. And he was visited by I think they called them the three sisters: thirst, desire, and delight. Right? Very similar. Jesus was tested, and you all have heard this many times, but Jesus was tested. Well, if you're the Son of God, then you won't be harmed. Or if you're the Son of God, you'll never go hungry. Or if you're the Son of God, you can have power over the world, right? So no sooner did he recognize the kind of the foundational identity of who and what we all are in our beingness and our I amness, then it loosened up kind of the deep-seated foundational beliefs that are rooted in our sense of separateness, in our separate self-sense, right? That, we need to protect and promote ourselves at any cost because we're separate, right? So same kind of thing, okay? So expect that, to come into great realization, that it loosens up all that's between you and that realization, and having that realization, kind of like it brings it up for review. It's saying like, are you ready to let this go? Or if presented with this again, will you fall for it? If presented with this again, will you think it's real? But it's pictures. These are pictures. And in those pictures are the thoughts and the feelings. And so you might pick it up on a thought level or on an auditory level, and it's a bunch of scripts. I'm no good, I'm getting this all wrong, I'm a piece of blah, blah, blah. Or it comes in the form of thoughts. Remember that time that you really, messed up? Or it comes in feelings, or all of the above. Okay? But that's kind of what starts to happen. And that's what I kind of saw in each of the questions that I received, is that some of that was loosening up. And you can call that a growth period. That's kind of what a growth period is in some ways. Yeah. Okay. So keep a lookout for that. That's going to happen. Has anyone noticed that kind of happening over the course of the last few months, where that, a lot of that doubt, oh, this isn't working, this isn't real, oh, it's not working just for me. Maybe I'm deficient in some form or fashion. No, I'm not psychic enough. I'm blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's all there. And you can congratulate yourself because you're aware of it now. And so just as Jesus or Buddha, what did Jesus do in the desert? He fasted, right? The Buddha didn't move. Even when he saw that maybe his kingdom was being run by an enemy or something, they didn't move. He fasted. Well, it's the same thing. That's what we're doing. That as you move into the center of your head and you move into a space of neutrality, you're fasting the mind. Another way to say that is you're not giving those thoughts your life force and energy anymore. You're fasting. They talk about fasting the mind or fasting the heart. So you're not engaging, because ultimately all of those phenomena that are presenting themselves to you in mind or thought, in pictures or feelings, they're inherently empty. They have no power within themselves. It's just a picture. It's just a thought. It's just a feeling. It's just an energy. And to the extent that we give it our energy, it's only that powerful. It's only as powerful as we make it. Okay? And so if the reaction is to get rid of it immediately, I got to get rid of it. Or I got to figure this out. I got to solve this. Why is this coming up? I thought I dealt with this. Or I got to heal myself. Or, something along those lines, that is rooted in fear. That at the core of any unconscious resistance is fear. And it's a fear that this picture or this thought or this idea or this feeling or whatever is going to consume me, or it's more powerful than I am, or I can't have this. So it's kind of counterintuitive. Actually, the way to quote unquote get rid of it is actually to let it go. And letting go is really not a getting rid of, but a letting it be. And the more that you can have it as, in its truth of what it is, then that's to that extent you've released your power from it. Right? Okay. All right, so let's move into a meditation. Okay, so find a comfortable seat. Okay. And then have your feet firmly planted on the ground. Close your eyes and start to slow down. Give yourself a few deep healing breaths. And decide to smile at yourself from the center of your head. Okay. Just make this choice. The world could be falling apart. Your personal world could be falling apart. And you can smile. All right. And then move into the center of your head and see it like a room. So move into the room in the center of your head and decide to turn on the light. And notice if there's any other beings in the center of your head. And on the left-hand side, there's a doorway. Open that doorway and invite everyone to move out of the center of your head. And there's a slide. So you can make it really fun and exciting to move out of your head. So as they slide down the slide and say "we," close the door behind them. And there's a chair in the center of your head. And take a seat in the chair in the center of your head and sit just like you're sitting now in your physical body. Sit in the center of your head in a chair and look forward and notice a big IMAX screen in front of you. This is your reading screen. And it kind of, the main screen is right in front of you, maybe about 6 inches or a foot in front of your head. And it goes around your whole head. The main screen is in front, but there's smaller screens kind of around your whole head. And from the center of your head, decide to turn on the screen. You could imagine a remote control or snapping your fingers. Just kind of turn on the light on the screen. So as I kind of direct you to look at different things, you're actually looking at this screen. Even when you're looking down on the screen. Okay. All right. And then from the center of your head, notice your first chakra at the base of your spine, close to your seat, kind of like a disc of spinning energy. Say hello to your first chakra. You can tell your first chakra a joke if you're not feeling too amused. Okay. And then say hello to the center of the earth. And imagine a tree trunk from your first chakra to the center of the earth. It can be like a big redwood tree trunk, or any kind of tree trunk, or even just a beam of light. However you imagine your connection to the earth. And have this this grounding cord kind of connect into the first chakra. If the first chakra was like a clock, it connects in kind of at the 5 o'clock and the 7 o'clock. And then when at the center of the earth, it kind of roots into the earth. Awesome. And the grounding cord releases energy. It gives you a way to release energy. So take a moment and just kind of put your attention around your space and body, energy system, and notice where you're holding on to energy, stress, or strain. And give yourself permission to release any foreign extraneous energy from your body and space. Don't try to solve or figure any of it out. Just if you're ready to let it go, let it go. And it goes down the grounding cord into the center of the earth. Okay? And be aware back into the center of your head if you went down the grounding cord with the energy. Awesome. And then imagine a really big gold sun above your head and decide to use this gold sun like a magnet to call back any of your energy and attention from anywhere you've put it in the last day or week or month. Sometimes we can even put our energy and attention into future concerns or future moments that we imagine. If you notice that happening, maybe you have a big thing coming up on the horizon, you can call your energy back from that too. And as this gold sun is filling up, invite it into your crown chakra at the top of your head and have it fill up your whole space, your whole body, all your chakras, down your arms, into your hands, all the way down your legs, into your feet. And we always bring this gold sun through the crown chakra because that kind of sets it to your unique energy, kind of gives it like your stamp so that it's right for your energy system and it's set at the highest vibration. Okay. And fill up your whole body all the way out to your skin, and then let this gold sun energy go through the skin to your aura. And notice your energy field around you. Notice, take note of kind of how big it is at the moment. And decide to kind of call it in a little bit closer around you. Maybe anywhere from 3 to 6 feet around you in each direction. And you just do this with your intention, just like you would intend to move your arm or your leg. This is an extension of your system. And so you can just direct it to come closer or farther, whatever you want. Just do it with certainty. Okay, so have that around you. Notice that you're much more than your body, that your energy extends beyond your body. And then create another gold sun above you. And this time, just kind of check in with yourself and notice if there's any quality of energy that you need today. Maybe some amusement or some joy, enthusiasm, happiness, healing, certainty. And fill in that gold sun from top to bottom or from bottom to top. And bring in this quality of energy through your crown chakra, filling up your whole body and space. And validate that you're bringing these qualities of energy in And just have it. And then say hello to your feet chakras. Say hello to the earth energy. And connect in with a quality of earth energy that you'd like to run in your body today. Something that you like. Have it come up and into your feet chakras, into your feet. And then connect in with your leg channels, kind of right in the center of your legs. The leg channel is smaller than the actual leg itself. And then have that earth energy come up the legs, into the knees, and to the first chakra, right at the base of your spine. And it fills up the first chakra from top to bottom. And then about 85% of it spills down the grounding cord. And this actually helps to get you even more grounded. Okay. Yeah. And then you're going to check in with the cosmic energy. It's the gold energy. And decide to bring a little bit of this gold energy above your crown chakra at the top of your head. And have it come in down the back of your head into the 4 channels, 2 that run along each side of the spine. Notice the quality of the cosmic energy. It's a lot finer, lighter than the earth energy. And have it come down the back channels, and it connects into the first chakra. And about 15% of this cosmic energy continues down the grounding cord. And then the earth and cosmic energy mixes in the first chakra. It creates a pumping action, and then it comes up the front channels, 2 on either side, and the inner channels connect into each of the 7 chakras. So have that mixture of energy come up from the first chakra to the second chakra, to the third chakra at the solar plexus, to the 4th chakra at the center of the chest, the 5th chakra at the base of your neck, the 6th chakra behind the forehead, and the 7th chakra at the top of the head. And then it fountains out. Imagine that it's like a gold fountain coming out of the top of your head. It goes into your aura and cleanses your aura, and then goes down and eventually grounds down the grounding cord at the bottom of your aura. And getting your energy in movement like this kind of helps to keep your energy channels, chakras, and space clean and clear, especially, and also helps to kind of move out whatever you're ready to release. So as we're going through the class and energy is getting stimulated and lit up, that you're releasing it. Okay. And then just be in the center of your head and observe this whole process. And in the center of your head, decide to be amused, even if nothing is funny. Just a way to kind of bring up your vibration So it's easier to work kind of at this level. And then create a rose directly in front of you, and have this rose be your mini-me rose, your protection rose. So this rose represents you on every level in present time. And just let it form. See it however you see it. And then put that rose right on the edge of your aura and give it a grounding cord. This is like a decoy rose, a protection rose, to handle any energies that are directed towards you. And decide to be like a body of glass. So you're like an aura of glass, a body of glass. Even your chakras are like glass. And any energy that comes your way just goes right through you. As you laugh. Okay. And then look around your space and say hello to all of your spirit guides. All of the people who have passed on that are interested in what you're up to right now. And have them out in front of you, maybe like 5 feet in front of you, and say hello. However you perceive them is fine. And then have them go up to, so we're in a virtual classroom space, have them go up to the balcony section. They can hang out and observe what you're doing from that space. Sometimes there's beings that are just kind of interested and want to watch what you're doing, and that's fine. Have them all go up to that balcony, hang out, have some popcorn. And then notice if there's any beings that just don't belong in your space. You might see it like some shadows, or you might just feel presence. And then connect those beings up to the Supreme Being and just let them go. Just have the Supreme Being remove those beings from your energy space. Okay? Just notice if your space gets a little bit lighter, maybe a little less pressure around the head. Sometimes when beings are kind of too close into your space, you can feel kind of crowded, or even maybe it's difficult to think straight. Okay. And then be aware again in the center of your head. Just notice that this space is a still space. There could be a lot of movement and activity and noise in and around you. But notice that there's this point in your awareness that is still. And as you get more and more familiar with this still point, with this quality of space here in the center of your head, that you'll be able to have more of that even in the midst of chaos. And as you do meditation like this, and you give yourself permission and more space to be who and what you are, that what gets stimulated is all that you're not. So create a rose and allow all the energies that are being stimulated as you're more and more being yourself. Have all that energy start to release into this rose. Notice if you have a knee-jerk reaction to sort through it or figure it out or make sense of it. That programming is pretty deep in all of us. You might have even been told as a kid, well, if there's a problem, do something about it. That's what being responsible is. Figure it out, do something with it. And it works to the extent that it's something that you generated. If it's your problem, so to speak, then you created it from the solution. You already have the solution. Just like a math equation. Okay. But if it's not your energy, not your problem, it's impossible to solve or figure out. So allow all that energy to go into the rose. And then with your certainty, just know that rose exploding. And then validate any changes that you notice. Okay. And then one more gold sun, fill in. And decide to bring your crown chakra to a clean, clear gold vibration. You can come out of meditation, bend over, dump out any excess energy. Okay. Good. And just notice that your energy will continue to run even when you're out of meditation. It might be a little bit lighter, that you're going to still be grounded even as we're just talking. So that's a good lesson. You know, when you're in meditation, it's good to be in meditation. When you're out of meditation, it's good to be out of meditation. I will admit, I have the tendency to get caught in the in-between. You ever notice that you're kind of in between sometimes? Half in a meditation space, half in a actual gross body space. And then, you know, something happens and you go, darn, I was really out of it. Right? So it's worth noticing. It's worth practicing. And then you can have it in meditation, kind of in a deeper space. And you can have it out of meditation when you're doing your day-to-day stuff. You can be in the center of your head, doing anything, reading, eating, walking, talking to somebody, driving, anything. You can still be in the center of your head. You can ground. Okay. But the experience might be a little different when you're not in a deep meditation space. Okay. So, clear audience. Any questions before we start on this? So clear audience.
Well, wait, maybe people need a stand-up break or a bathroom break or anything?
Okay,
Is
yeah,
everybody okay? Yeah,
for sure.
maybe just a few minutes, like what? 3 to 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Sure. Tim, how do you spell
Yeah.
clairaudience?
Ooh, well,
CLEAR or CLAR?
I think it's AR.
the LAR, yeah.
Thank
I
you.
think I think it's it comes from the French.
Like clairvoyant,
Right.
clairaudient. Okay.
And
Yeah,
clair meaning like to
clear.
hear clearly.
Oh,
Um, a friend of mine is receiving comfort care in ICU now.
Mm.
And I'm trying to hold him with me.
Mhm.
So this was really strange to usher him out of the room
Mhm.
and do these meditations.
Mhm.
We've all been asked to stay with him.
Mhm.
And it's like, is this my energy? It's obviously not something I can solve.
Right.
And then there's another friend who just passed.
Mhm.
So he's been hanging around.
Yes, he has.
I ushered him out of the room as well.
Yeah, they can go up to the balcony section for the time being.
Yeah.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah.
It's challenging to focus on other things.
Mhm. Yeah.
so a
Because of
friend, go ahead, sorry.
these losses.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, it's possible. I just did. But it feels as if I need time with them.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I should just leave class. I think so.
Yeah. Well, in a moment here, we're going to invite in your primary spirit guide. And that might be an interesting experience for you to see if it can't give you some guidance in relationship to some of this. But totally your choice. You can always come back to listening to the recording. too.
Yes, I can return,
Yes,
and to the recording.
for sure.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of grief and loss lit up, huh?
Alan and Barb, are you back? Okay, all right, you could probably start again, Tim.
Yeah, so Barbara just left. she wants to come back to the recording and visit some of what we're going to do next. Yeah, so, okay. Yeah. Yeah, so maybe there's an opportunity in all this. Is anyone aware of the grief that's present? The energy of grief, right? The energy of loss. Mm-hmm. And it might be something that you're aware of feeling. Who, raise your hand if you're feeling grief, right? Yeah. And then raise your hand if you feel grief kind of in and around another chakra area, like maybe it's like you kind of see the grief, kind of like a color or a quality or a tone, but it seems more visual, kind of like a cloudy day or something, right?
Yeah, that's what I see, almost like smoke weaving in and out of the group or something.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. And then
A friend of mine died last night.
yeah.
A friend of mine died last night, and I was present throughout the night, in and out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry for
In a
your,
way, yeah. So there's a theme here. A lot of people have lost people recently. So there's a lot of beings. So this class comes at a timely moment, because what we're about to do is work with your spirit guide and kind of have that experience of communicating with your spirit guide from a clairaudient space. Okay. And so the reason this is so timely in some ways, as I was preparing for this class, my grandma, who is deceased at this point, was very much communicating with me clairaudiently. And I kind of checked in like, okay, I'm here, I'm listening. What's up? And what was interesting to see that she still had a lot of concerns that were kind of based in, some of her energy was still in the concerns that she had for family members that are still in a body. And, so there wasn't much that I could or needed to do with that, but she wanted to communicate her concern. That was the big thing. That communication was enough. Like that I was hearing her. Oh, okay, yeah, you're concerned about this family member or that thing or this. And so it can be like that with beings, that they tune in to us and they can kind of see, okay, this person can get my message. This person has their that particular ability turned on and active and somewhat consciously aware of it. I'm going to connect in with that person and communicate whatever I want to communicate. And, sometimes that can be your deceased loved ones, or it can be spirit guides that you have, or it can be just a random being passerby. They're like, because just like we thrive on communication, just like we want communication, there's some beings that just want communication. Does that make sense? It's like they're like, and some of them can be really obnoxious, like heckler beings, and or like the way that you'd see a bully on the playground. And part of it is that they don't realize that what they're wanting is communication, that they're lonely on some level. And that's the only way they know how to communicate. They aren't in a space to actually receive communication. And so they give you a hard time and you say, get the hell out of here. And they say, I got communication. It's like, have you ever heard the saying like, even negative attention is attention? There are some beings like that, but we're not going to be inviting those beings in to talk with us at the moment. But it's worth saying hello to that, because sometimes people can be really turned on this level, but just not really aware of it, and it affects them, and they become the effect of what they're tuned into on a clairaudient level, or they're reacting to something they're aware of on a clairaudient level, and they don't really recognize that. So here you are bringing more, actually spending the time to look at that. So you better believe you're going to be more and more aware of that. Okay. So clairaudience is a 5th chakra ability. So the 5th chakra is at the base of the throat. And there's several abilities that are worth highlighting here at the 5th chakra level. So one of them is telepathy, which we worked with last month. And that is more thought transmission. And it's connected in with the 5th chakra, those channels. I was explaining that last time. The channels are kind of starting, like the telepathic equipment is kind of like this. Okay, so it the channels extend even beyond the 5th chakra, kind of more on the face. And the other ability here at the 5th chakra is your inner voice, which I might actually, because we do have one kind of extra class that isn't filled up with a theme yet. So I might do inner voice as a theme for that class. I was thinking either inner voice or psychometry, the ability to read energy with your hands. So you guys can think about that and see what you think. And then the other component at a 5th chakra level is discrimination. So your ability to kind of differentiate what it is that you are aware of on a 5th chakra level, like kind of discern the truth of it, understanding. Okay. So just because a spirit talks to you, doesn't mean you should follow them. Right? It's kind of like if I said, hey, let's jump off a bridge. You'd say, nah, that's crazy. Right? So that's discernment. That you don't have to follow everything that you hear clairaudiently. Right? You discern it. Now, obviously, when it comes to your spirit guides, they're respectful of your autonomy and who and what you are, and they're there to help you along your spiritual path, to help you take your next steps. So before we come in as a being in this incarnation, we set up our agreements with guides and beings that will kind of help us along our path. And some of those beings are actually beings that are going to have a body in the same life as us. So, some of the teachers and guides that you've had in your life, you set up those agreements before you even came into life. And you might have had a relationship with those beings that extend beyond this life. Okay. And the same is true with the beings that don't have a body, that are here to kind of like your advisors or your consultants. So that's a feature of clairaudience, is clearing up the clairaudient equipment and chakra and channels that are associated with it, so that you can kind of clear out some of the noise. Clear out some of the noise that's present at that bandwidth of energy frequency, and hear better. Now, so you can talk about clairaudience. Sometimes it's that you can hear an impossible sound, like you might hear a conversation down the block, right? Probably less common, but sometimes it can be like that, or but more often than not, it's like I was saying before in reading a book. It's like very subtle subvocal. So you hear it in your mind, it's an inward hearing. Right? Does that make sense? And at least for me, each of you will experience that different, but it'll be, sometimes it's just like an experience of movement in that area, or activity in that area. Like, oh, I'm getting communication. I don't know what it is, but I'm getting it. Or sometimes you receive the communication, but you get it in images. Or you have thoughts, and the thoughts seem random, but they're connected to the communication that you're receiving. Or you just know what the communication is about, or you have an insight. So you ask the guide a question, and then you have an insight, and you know what it pertains to. And again, the communication is very holographic. It's like a full body, immediate communication. It's like the way that God spoke about talking to Moses mouth to mouth, or speaking to Moses mouth to mouth. There's like an immediacy, a directness, and so it happened. It almost feels or seems like it happens simultaneously to the asking of the question. Okay, but then you can go back, and because it's present, even if you missed it the first time, what was that? And then you can see the answer, or you can get the answer kind of at a second glance, so to speak. Okay. And another component to clairaudience is the ability to hear clearly. And that is not necessarily about talking to beings, but that in what you hear a lot more. Okay? You get a fuller, more in-depth level of communication. So someone says one thing with their mouth, with their words, but you hear what they really mean. Right? You hear a lot more than what they're actually saying with their words. That's clairaudience. And so that you may kind of resonate more with that component of it, or you discern It can also be a kind of a discerning quality where you can you can hear for the truth of things. How true is this? Does what they say match their energy? Right? So there's a lot of different features and components to how clairaudience shows up. But a big one that I kind of want to work with today is having the experience of talking to your primary number one spirit guide. And I kind of set up the class and invited your spirit guides to be present today. Okay. So they're here. Okay. And so now it's just about having the experience of what it's like. And you might notice that it's very familiar, but you just never called it that. That you are familiar with the presence. And when you quiet this space, when you quiet your mind, I talked about that a little bit in the meditation at the end, you move into the center of your head and you come into a space of stillness within yourself, that you start to be able to hear the presence of spirit. You know, when Mother Teresa was asked, how do you pray? She says, I listen to God. And then they asked, well, what does God do? Well, God listens too, is what she said. You know, or like Elijah in the cave, you know, the big sound of the thunder came and the storm and this and the lightning and this and that, but then he heard the smallest of whispers, and God was in the whisper. So it's kind of like that, where you have to quiet yourself enough to hear the communication, right? That you're already receiving the communication. It's that maybe kind of have to quiet yourself enough to get it, to have it. Okay. All right. So close your eyes. And start to relax. We're always so busy doing. So give yourself permission just to be. And be in the center of your head. Have a seat. Be at ease. Let go of any concerns. And check your grounding. Check that your energy is running, earth and cosmic energy. And rematch your crown chakra at that gold vibration. And from the center of your head, decide to be amused, to kind of lighten your vibration a little bit. It'll help you to receive communication a little bit easier, the lighter that your vibration is. Because again, this is an out-of-body spirit that you're communicating with. And so their vibration is naturally higher than, they don't have that body vibration mixed in. So if you lighten up a little bit, then what do they say about angels? angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. Kind of like that. Okay, so take yourself lightly. Okay. And then bring your awareness to your fifth chakra and notice that space. You can do it from the center of your head just by kind of putting your attention on your fifth chakra a little bit. And create a rose in front of your fifth chakra. And decide, okay, right now I'm going to give myself permission to release all the foreign energies that I picked up on a clairaudient level. Probably because you're clairaudient. And, you know, sometimes this can be in the form of, you know, people really wanting to communicate to you. I really want you to hear what I'm saying. Knock, knock, knock. Or it can be, I don't want you to hear what I'm saying about you to so and so. Or maybe it's you saying, I don't want to hear that. So let some of those energies start to loosen up and decide, for right now, you're not going to try to fix any of that or solve any of that. It's just about giving it permission to release. And so there's no effort involved. You just kind of watch it float out of your fifth chakra, your clairaudient channels that kind of run up your neck, in and around your ears, into your brain. Don't even worry about the channels, but just set the intention that you're releasing the foreign energies from your fifth chakra, from your clairaudient channels in space. And then let it happen. Even if you're just knowing it happening. Okay? Great. I can tell that you guys are really letting it go. So that's great. And you can even take a look at that rose and see how it looks. That was the energy that your fifth chakra was handling. And decide to laugh at all the energy that you're handling in your fifth chakra clairaudient space. The rose might look dark or kind of gooey or something. Yeah. And then when that's all full, then decide to blow up that rose in a big flash of light. And it's totally no effort. This is something you're just imagining. Okay? But it works. All right. And then bring in a gold sun through your crown chakra and really fill in your clairaudient space, your fifth chakra space. And notice how much quieter it is in this class space. Much quieter. There was a lot of noise. And then I want you just to be aware, the fifth chakra is kind of like, you kind of tune in to energies kind of like you would tune into a radio station. All right? So just be aware of what radio stations, so to speak, have you been tuned into lately? Are you tuned into the complaint station? Picking up on all the complaint or all the hardship or all the fake news? Are you on the drama station? So you can create another rose in front of you. And as you're aware of that, you're going to start to be aware of what you've been tuned into on a clairaudient level. You might be tuned into the gossip mill or to people's problems and what woe is me, anything like that. I just want you to be aware of all the different channels you've been tuned into. A lot of it's because you care, right? Because you're such good healers, compassionate people. But what happens is that when you're tuned into those vibrations, it lowers your vibration and it makes this space heavy. So decide to start to let that go. And decide that you want to set the tuning fork of your fifth chakra, so to speak, the station, to tune into the vibration of your primary spirit guide. You can have that guide, invite that guide to come in front of you, and then start to tune your fifth chakra clairaudient space to the vibration of your guide. And this can just happen just by intending it, deciding to do that. Okay? As you start to do that, then what's going to start to happen is any energies that are interfering that communication are going to start to loosen up. So create a rose again in front of you and allow any energies that are loosening up in your clairaudient space. Just float into the rose, no big hoopla, and start to release so that you can have the communication. You can even ask the spirit guide to help kind of loosen up and clear any interference so that you can have this communication more or better or with more conscious awareness. And then notice all that starts to notice the movement, all that starts to loosen up in your awareness. You might start seeing, past moments, memories, or maybe it just feels like a movement of noise, or you see a bunch of colors. However you experience that release, no problem, it's fine, it's unique to you. So as that rose starts to fill up, explode it. You can create another rose just for any other loose material. And then blow that up. Notice that it's starting to be a lot more clear. Okay. And then say hello to your guide. And notice your experience of your guide's hello back to you. You might experience it on a feeling level, like you just feel a presence or sense a presence, or you just know. Because I can guarantee that there's a guide in front of each and every one of you. So it's not a matter of if, just a matter of how you're experiencing that. Okay? So become very aware of your inner experience of that. You might feel it, like a certain quality, or maybe it's brighter, or you see a different kind of color in front of you, kind of a light beam or something. Okay. And then decide to kind of tune into your clairaudient space. and be receptive. And part of this is familiarizing yourself with your guide. So notice if this presence feels familiar. Okay. If any other energy is loosening up, create a rose. I notice some more energy loosening up. So let that go into the rose. And you can explode that. And decide to kind of lighten your vibration a little bit by being amused in the center of your head. And decide that you are going to have kind of a private consult space, kind of like if you went into a private room with your guide. Okay. And then you can start off by asking your guide, a simple yes or no question, like, have I known you a long time? Have we had past lives together? How about this one? Have you been trying to communicate with me? And then just get the yes or no. So you can start off that way. Okay. And then you can even kind of check in with the guide and ask the guide, does it want you to call it by a specific name? Sometimes guides will have names, or sometimes they don't give you any name. It's just like you start to familiarize yourself with the quality of that being. And then ask your guide if there's anything that your guide would like to communicate with you right now about your next step on your spiritual path. And then just know that you're hearing the answer. And it may come in the form of a thought or a set of images, or you might just know what it pertains to. And then ask your guide if your guide is laughing at you right now. Sometimes they have a lot of humor. And you can even say, I'm not quite getting it. It might be a little bit easier if you communicate in this way or in that way. And so you can start to ask the guide to kind of adjust the communication so that it works for you. And sometimes the guide will kind of intend to speak to you in a certain kind of way because your next step is to develop that ability. Other times they can be flexible and it's not such a big deal to do it a different way. Okay. Okay. And then when that communication feels complete, then it's important to hang up the phone, just like you hang up the phone with a friend that you're talking to until next time. So what you do is you ask the spirit guide to kind of move back and out of your space and say thank you for whatever communication occurred. Maybe communication occurred that you'll get at a later moment. And ask the being to collect up all of their energy from your space. And you can call back any of your energy that went into your spirit guide space. Okay. And then it's kind of like, okay, until next time. You say goodbye. And notice how your space and awareness shifts as that being moves out of your space. Okay. And then be aware in the center of your head. Create a big gold sun above you and bring that gold sun in and really fill in your space after that. And then you can come out of meditation. I'm curious how that experience was for people. And I have maybe two things to say about it. When I was younger, my grandpa would go to church every day. And I was kind of curious what that was all about for him. And so I followed him to church. I was probably 13 or something, 14. And I was sitting there in the pew. And he was a little bit standoffish. So I was sitting in like a different pew than him. But I remember asking him, why do you go to church every day? And he said, well, he thought about it for a moment. He was very quiet, unless he was telling a joke. And so I wasn't sure what was coming, maybe a joke, But he said, well, I figure if I can come face to face with God every day, then I can come face to face with any man. Right? And, I was thinking about that in preparation for this class, that a lot of times the way a spirit guide will work is that you come face to face with the spirit guide. And the communication is what comes up in your awareness in the presence of the spirit guide. Okay? So does that make sense? That the spirit guide doesn't have to say and do anything, but that the spirit guide is perfectly attuned to where you're going. That in the presence of the spirit guide, that the energy between you, where you are now and where you're going, like the next step in the process, gets lit up and released or stimulated. And so that's sometimes how the communication can occur. You come face to face, and then you notice yourself thinking about this issue that you have, or this problem that you have, or how you're going to do that, or whatever, and that is not that's not coincidental. It's directly related to what's stimulated between you and your spirit guide, because that's your next step in clearing that or in working with that. Okay. So yeah, that's one thing. And now what can be helpful with working with your spirit guide is to set aside specific moments to start to build that relationship. So it could be like, once a week for a few minutes, you go into meditation and you tune in to your spirit guide, and you receive communication. You talk with your spirit guide. And that can be kind of like a homework assignment here. So you start to build that relationship. And, we have more than one spirit guide. So, this is your primary one, the one that's kind of your number one spirit guide at the moment. Okay. So I'd love to hear people's comments, like when you asked your spirit guide, have you been present with me? What did you notice? And did you notice that your spirit guide had more of a masculine quality, a feminine quality, kind of in between, like not feminine or masculine, kind of androgynous or something? Yeah, it can be like that. So anyone can open their mic and comment, whatever, ask question.
I'll just comment very quickly, Tim, because I'm going to leave in a few minutes, but androgynous, a light, it was a source of light, nothing specific. But also what you just said is the communication will be through meditation.
Mhm.
Very interesting. Very amusing in some ways, but very interesting.
Mhm. Yeah.
And powerful.
Mhm.
Mine was feminine, and I didn't hear a voice until she answered the question, have you been with me a long time? And then I heard this voice that said, oh, yes, which made me laugh. And the sound of that voice reminded me of someone who was a really significant mentor
Mhm.
to me for many, many years. And I haven't been in touch with her for probably a couple years now. So that was just lovely to receive, and also kind of confusing, but I was okay with feeling confused and just kind of allowing it to be.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, my guide is androgynous and has been with me for a long time, and I was aware of this guide. And this guide has had two different names and gave me a new name. And was so bright. And I was like, you're so bright, I can hardly look at you. And then I remember what you said about lightening up. So I tried to lighten up so that I could be more on that vibrational level. And when I asked what's my next step, I saw the little, the colorful guide on what's coming up next in January. And I've been really pondering whether I should take this one course or not. And so I took that picture of the guide as a communication that I should take that event that I've been pondering.
Very cool. Yeah. Yeah. So everyone's experience it's kind of unique to them. And similar to some of what you're describing, the hearing is not like you would expect it to be. You know, it's not like you hear with your ears. Sometimes it can be for some people, where it's like a booming voice, but very rare. It's usually in emergency situations, because the beings don't want to expend a whole lot of energy communicating to you. It's much easier to if the person is aware and capable and able to pick up on more subtlety, then the being is much more interested in communicating on that subtle level. Does that make sense?
For me, it's something like you just know, you know,
Yeah.
if you're kind of talking back and forth,
Mhm.
you just know.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the answer somehow.
Yeah, I had a similar experience, Mary,
you?
where it was like you were asking questions or whatever question came up for me. It's like I couldn't, before I could even, it's like I thought the question and then the answer came.
Yes. Yeah. So that's more of a seventh chakra, which is it's a very high level to communicate with beings, but it can be extremely helpful because you just know what the communication is. You know what it means for you. You know if it's helpful or not. Like kind of like you get the whole like more of a complete story. You know, whereas on a clairaudient level, sometimes it can be like, I hear this, but I don't know what that means. Right? So you almost have to like hear it and then tune into your knowing what that is for you. Right? So we're going to work with knowingness next month. But yeah, you two were using the knowingness. And it's kind of like a direct knowing what the communication is. Absolutely. Yeah.
I brought a lot of resistance into this.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were filling up the rows,
Mm-hmm.
I had like a whole parade of cardinals and popes and nuns and priests filling my rows. So it was just like bursting. It was like enormous rows.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when I settled after that, I had absolutely a clear awareness that this spirit guide was a trickster.
Hmm.
And I even previously this year, I actually heard an audible voice from it, but I did not know what I was dealing with.
Mhm.
So that was fun. Like I was like totally amused. Like, do you know this part? Oh,
Yeah.
yes. I know this part my whole life. It's just
Yeah.
I don't let it out of the bag.
Yeah, so your guide has a lot of amusement.
Oh, it was great. So I'm glad to know that. You know, I knew it
Yeah.
through different things that I experienced this year, but I never thought of it as a spirit guide.
Yeah, and sometimes guides will use amusement because it's a high enough vibration for the communication to take place, but it's also an easy vibration for us to access. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, amusement, you could say, is like the lowest of the high vibrations, right? You know, so that it's very effective. It's like, well, I could probably get this person at least into amusement.
Uh-huh. That's great.
I might not be able to get them happy, but
It's such a joke in my family that I'm easily amused. Yeah. But you know, Tim, it was so beautiful. I actually had an experience of someone asking me who my spirit guide was. And this person that raised me came to mind immediately. And so in this exercise, it wasn't like I was looking for her. She she made her presence known, but then it was so precious because she slapped her knee and was just elated. So then that made me really teary because I had no idea that she was waiting for me to arrive. So what a blessing. Thank you.
Very cool. Yeah. Yeah. So it can be very powerful to connect in with your guides.
You know, Tim, I would say about and I was just thinking about this, about 1985, my spirit guide came to me, and it's androgynous, but more of a water character. Water comes from, and has told me that a number of times, has a water element. But I have found that I have the communication when I want it, the knowing, and we go back and forth. But sometimes if I haven't talked to, I'll say him for the sake of, I guess, leans that way a little more, it will be like almost an impatience for me to get settled, get quiet.
Mhm.
And I have kept the guide's journal. I mean, I journal, but then I have a guide's journal because it sometimes, and there's a certain CD I play and it just becomes very present. And if I'm troubled with something, or if I'm struggling with something, I never know what's going to come out of that communication, but I always get to the end of it. And by the time I say thank you and we say namaste to each other, I have the answers. And I get very quiet with that. I mean, it's like, thank you. And I mean, it's the deepest thank you we both have at that time.
Yeah.
So it isn't all the time. It's just when I know, go get that, my guide journal.
Yeah.
Is that, when you
Absolutely.
say,
It's like
instead
you
of,
have
I have to write it almost. And I
Yeah.
don't know what's going to come when I do it.
Yeah. So it's unique for each of us, you know, how that communication takes place. And, but it sounds like you have kind of a ritual, or kind of like a way of interacting. You know, some people are very, you know, they, their guides might really connect in with them kind of with writing, or kind of on that level, you know.
And that's okay to
Yeah,
write it at that
absolutely.
time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, trying to think if there's anything else that I kind of wanted to fit in here.
I could just share this one more thing.
Yeah.
As I said, the guide, I mean, the communication was like a knowing.
Mhm.
But what I know is that I'm going to sit down and do the writing piece, like Jane mentioned, in
Yes.
order to let that flesh out and sink in. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? To
That-
concretize it somehow.
Mhm.
What came in a flash.
Exactly. Exactly. You nailed it. You nailed it. That can be kind of how knowingness can be in some ways. Is that you might know it in a flash, you might know it instantaneously. It's like a drop.
Mhm.
But you know, it could take 15 minutes or a lifetime for that drop to unfold. It's
Mhm.
kind of like a petal, you know, it's like a flower opens.
Mhm.
You get the whole thing and you kind of have a general sense of it, but then it unfolds and it can be like an elaborate story. I mean, communication on any chakra level can be like that, but especially at a 7th chakra level. And so, yeah, it kind of unfolds bit by bit. And what can sometimes happen is you get the communication in a moment, you sit down but like, you know, you got it, but you're not quite sure what it is. It doesn't quite, you know, it's like, yeah, the communication happened. I'm aware of that, but I'm not quite sure what it was. And then and then you move through your day or whatever, and then you'll get like, boom, that's what the communication was. Like something in your experience will just light it up, and you just know it, or you see it, or you get the communication. It's like you weren't quite at a space to receive the communication until you were, and then you got it. Does that make sense? It's like an insider. And then you look back and you're like, wow, I got it. I know what that was about. Yeah.
Sometimes when you're writing stream of consciousness, like you don't even think about what you're putting down on the paper. It just kind of pours out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so is that like receiving some kind of communication?
Yeah, I mean, that could be a handful of things. But yeah, I think communication can come in that form. You know, that's a whole other topic unto itself. I think that beings will communicate with you in that way. And I think that your higher self will communicate with you in that way too. Or you might say your inner voice, or your knowingness, or kind of your kind of higher spiritual aspects of yourself will communicate in that way. And so, or, you know, some people kind of like go into a trance medium state and bring in information or being in that way too. But that's a whole nother topic that I probably won't get to for a while. But yeah, so that can happen too. But, you know, a lot of times beings will communicate with people at a fifth chakra level, clairaudiently, or through their fifth chakra, right? You know, you see like mediums that will, and their voice will change because a being using their fifth chakra, you know, but that's a whole other topic unto itself. Yeah, so that's a good point. All right. So next class, we're going to work with knowingness, clear knowingness, kind of like open up that topic, the seventh chakra ability. And then following that will be clairvoyance. And following that will be your affinity or your heart chakra and the ability that's there. Okay. And in a way, I kind of paired some of these, or they're kind of in an order because they go together in some ways. Like, you know, when we were working with clairsentience and telepathy, you can use a lot of the same techniques to work on both the level of feeling or the level of thought, right?
Mhm.
And then when you get to clairaudience, as we've seen in our comments and discussion, that your knowingness kicks in to kind of aid what you hear a lot. And then clairvoyance and your affinity, well, what do you see? Well, you see what you're interested in, right? You see what you love. So they kind of go together. So depending on how your heart is set, will kind of dictate how your clairvoyance is set in a way. And then for that last class, I don't know in what order, but I was thinking inner voice. Does that sound interesting to people? Another fifth chakra ability.
Mhm.
Or we can do a psychometry. I mean, we could always do both at different times, but, you know. Okay. Think
Thank
about
you.
it. Yeah.
Thanks, Tim. And just a reminder that when you registered for the fall, we only had you registered for these 3 classes that we did. And so you'll have to re-register for the January through May, I guess, class. Okay. All right. And for those of you who might not have gotten the message, the well will do a little Christmas bread breaking prayer at 4:30. No, I'm sorry, 6:30 on Christmas Eve. And also on the 21st, on Monday, we'll do the summer solstice, winter solstice with the Southern Hemisphere. That's on Monday at 4:30 Chicago time. So hope to see you. Thanks so much, Tim. Merry Christmas,
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, everybody. So
Thank
glad-
you. Merry
Christmas.
Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.